Hey, Mac from Plumbing Deals. We have a couple of things going on with this laundry tub. First and foremost, she's old, but not in terrible shape. The legs are a little rusty. We're not going to address that today. The thing I wanted to touch on is going to be the laundry pump that is attached directly to the laundry tub. It's made by a company called Shellback. It is their 31219 pump, which is the automatic pump. It has a little air switch in it so that when a certain amount of water is in the tub, it detects it and pumps it up and out. This one is piped in with 3/4 inch copper that ends up going to their hanging sewer up here. There's no check valve in this. If you watched our previous video about the sump pump, I believe the same guy who installed the sump pump may have also done the Shellback pump. He just did not believe in check valves. He was not aware of gravity. So we're going to replace the pump, just for funsies, cut in a check valve, and talk a little bit about how the installation of this thing is. Because it's a little bit of a niche pump. Not a lot of areas have it, but the places that are able to use this in lieu of like one of those big things that sit on the floor ends up being a pretty amazing space saver. Quick rundown of all the tools we're going to need for this job. Of course, we're going to start with our torch, flux, solder, acid brush, pipe dope, and Teflon tape. I've got sand cloth, which is always a necessity anytime you're messing with copper. You want to make sure you're working with clean copper. The other thing we have is all of our copper fittings, brass nipples, and we have our Legend check valve. It is a 3/4 inch check valve with a little swing thing in there. I'll show you a little bit more on that later. And then I also have that little square pad that is a basically flame resistant cloth to help when you're soldering pipe in close quarters. So pretty much covers our list. Let's get the pump uninstalled and get our new one on. First things first, unplug your old pump. We have a cool little hanger here with our old switch. Really nice, MacGyver approved method. I love seeing stuff like that. We're going to redo that shortly. Should always work with light. This is a fun little Milwaukee 12 volt thing. This is old. I've run this thing through the ringer. It's still holding up real strong. They make a really nice new version of this. They also make 18 volt version. This is just the 12 volt one, but pretty nice, especially when you're working in a dark area. Throw it in there and light up your work area. All right, we're gonna start by cutting our line. Getting there with my close cutter. I'm kind of hoping there's not gonna be a mess here. It's anyone's guess though. Hello. Oh yeah. Yep, that's a mess. Let's get our bucket in play. Always helps to have a bucket handy. We're barely making a mess. I love that. Perfect. All right, now we're gonna drop the pump from the tub. It's gonna come up here with your channel locks. I might not have mentioned those in the rundown, but you know you need them. It's plumbing. When do you not have a pair of channel locks in your hand? And we're gonna get a little water that's residual from the tub. Let that go right into our bucket because we prepare for everything. Once again, barely made a mess. Not bad. Yeah, sometimes you gotta reuse a fitting. Kind of an ancient technique here where we're gonna sweat off this 3/4 inch MIP because I need one, but I'm not going back to the shop. We'll clean that up with our sand cloth here in a minute, but that'll do the trick for when we need it. All right, so we're gonna actually use a 3/4 inch dielectric on this, so it makes my life a little easier, but that's what we're gonna attach right here. So we're gonna get this taken apart so we can sweat this on. And the easy way, there's our washer. I'm gonna pop all this off, but our little cap and our nut, I'm gonna slide over the copper right now. We're gonna go up pretty high, but that way we can sweat this guy on right here and we didn't have to worry about forgetting it. So let's get that cleaned up and sweat on, and then we'll be able to get the rest of our Shellback pump installed under here and run the rest of our drain over to it. Let's take our deburr tool, make sure we don't have anything weird. Just make sure that's nice and clean. Perfect. Get in here with our sand cloth. Get this puppy looking real good. Oh yeah, there's that nut. That's how you know we haven't forgotten it. Slammed into my hand, startled me. All right, that's pretty clean. I'll give it one more. You basically want to clean enough to eat off of. All right, so here's our brass portion of our union. Use our brush to get that nice and cleaned up. And we're just gonna get a little flux right there. Then we're gonna do a little flux on our line. Oh yeah, it's a piece of my brush right on that pipe. Love the look of that. So now that that's on, get our torch going. The trick to sweating is putting the heat where you want the solder to go. I like to do a nice little flux wipe of the joint, followed by the tried, true, and tested Jersey glove wipe. Just makes for a nice solder line. All right, so I'm gonna prep the MIP that goes to the bottom of my dielectric. I have this in my fun little Milwaukee box. Look at this thing. It's got a nice little groove here. Fits pipe perfectly. Love this. I don't think they make this one anymore. They got all that fancy pack out stuff. Anyway, get this nice and clean. We have our fitting here. I went through, I already brushed this, but just so you know, I love reusing fittings. That's a joke. I bet we're all laughing. Same thing, get the flux where you need it. And get our sweat on. Little solder goes a long way. Same thing, I'm gonna do a flux wipe. Come right back over it with my glove wipe. Let that cool down, and then we're gonna get a little pipe dope on there. We'll get the bottom half of the dielectric on. We'll tie that together. You can see under this guy, I've got this pretty much dry fit. Got our check valve behind the leg. I did misspeak, they did have a check valve on this pump. It was just behind the leg and I couldn't see it, but whatever, we're gonna have a brand new one in there. I'll show you a couple little tricks with that check valve here in a second. All right, we got a little pipe dope here, or I think they officially call this pipe thread sealant. We all know what it is. There's a million different brands. They're all pretty okay. I like the white stuff. Green stuff is pretty good. The blue stuff's all right. But you just get in there, kind of spread it evenly on this guy. I like to get just a touch on the inside here. Start this puppy by hand. And then from there, flip this that way. It's always really nice to have a backer. Get that nice and tight. It's gonna help me get my measurement on our drop here, because we do have to cut a 90 in. So I just wanna make sure that we have the right length for this. So we'll get that hooked up and go from there. All right, we got our drop measured. Once again, hit it with that deburr. Make sure you have no issues in there. Nice. This new copper, the brush does a great job. Big fan of that. Cool. So now we got our little piece here. I'm gonna go right where our 90 is. Drop in here. Line looks pretty straight. So now that we have this dry fit for the most part, I'm gonna be able to pull this all apart. We'll use pipe dope and get all the brass fittings under the sink tightened up. So let's drop this guy and go from there. All right, now we're just gonna put pipe dope on our brass threaded pieces here. I guess if you wanted to, you could use galvanized. I'm sure plenty of guys do. I just love matching the look of the Shellback. It's a beautiful pump with the brass fittings. Here's our check valve. It's got that nice little swing in there. And they have an arrow. Shows you the direction of flow. So we know this is our discharge is gonna be going away from the pump. If you accidentally install it this way, your pump will not work. So we're gonna get this guy on here. And I'm just gonna get a little on the inside there. Doesn't need much. What's cool is as we tighten this end, it's tightening up the whole line. So every part of this is going. All right, our check valve looks like it's level. We should be good to pop this on the sink. So it does come with this nice little top hat washer. I'm just gonna place that right in the inlet of the pump. This is gonna slide up and over. And we're gonna thread this right onto the bottom of the sink. This will be the funnest part for us to film. Bear with us, folks. All right, I'm actually gonna pop my glove off so I can feel these threads going up here. Super odd angle, because I'm trying to make it so you guys can see. But once you kind of get this lined up, the sink should let you thread this on very easily. Oh yeah, okay. So we're looking pretty tight. I'm gonna wait to finish tightening that completely until I have this little section over here connecting to the rest of the drain line. So I'll get that done right now, and we can wrap this bad boy up. All right. So we're just gonna make sure pipe's nice and good. Make sure our 90 is clean. We're gonna get a little flux in the mix. Solid. So that guy on. Perfect. And we're ready to sweat. Of course, flux wipe. Get in there with my glove. Very nice. The only thing we have left to do, we're gonna tighten this up. I threw the washer in there. So we're just gonna make sure our dielectric is tight, and then our pump should be good to test. All right, here's our fun little switch. It's got the manual thing. I love this little coat hanger trick, keeping it on the side. We're just gonna do that again. So what's better than that? Plug to the pump. Before I plug this in, with any pump, you want to make sure you don't airlock it. So right away, I'm just going to fill some water in the tub so we know there's water in the pump. Plug this guy in. I will sneak behind this weird mess. They got a lot going on in this sink. I don't know what any of it's for. Not my house, not my problem. I'm gonna slide behind this, get this guy in here, and we will be taking a zip tie and getting this up and out of the way. We'll zip tie it right to this conduit. So we'll do that here in a second, but I'm gonna go ahead and turn our laundry on. So with the Shellback pump, when a certain amount of water ends up in the tub, that's when that air switch is going to turn on, like it just did. So if I turn this off, we can hear the pump going. We're going to check for leaks. I know there's not any. And then let's take a look. So nice, slow and steady. It's just gonna pump that water out through our discharge. That's pretty much it. That's how you install a Shellback pump or replace a Shellback pump. My plan with the old pump is to go and do a full rebuild video to show you guys how to replace all the different gaskets, the impeller, and the shaft seal on that. So expect that here shortly. But yeah, thanks for watching. Any questions, please drop it in the comments below. Thanks.